This cemetery in northern France tells us something about Catholicism in this country. I've been here many times over the last 15 years, a tiny slice of this village's lifetime, stretching to the 12th century. In 2013, broken crucifixes and stones littered the grounds of Saint-Martin Church. Flowers and vegetation reclaimed many plots, and at least to me, the site felt forgotten. But then something changed, bringing some well-needed love and attention to Saint-Martin at a time when there are glimpses of hope for the faith in France. Welcome to the Faithful Catholic Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ganzer, and in this short episode, we'll visit the cemetery at Saint-Martin Church in a small village in France's Picardy region to see what its condition says or doesn't about the state of the Catholic faith here, especially as Pope Leo XIV has called for a missionary renewal in France, and baptisms are on the rise. That's to come in this episode of Faithful. In society in general, coming to a cemetery like this is a sacred place. This is a place that people should show reverence. It's only natural that this is where loved ones and all of us can remember people we may have known or at least acknowledge that fellow brothers and sisters in Christ existed. But over time, some cemeteries face neglect. And in France, especially with a complicated history on its religion, we can ask, why did it fall in disrepair? Was it part of a general turning away from the church, from religion, that these places fell into disrepair? Or was it just people forgot and didn't really pay attention to cemeteries like this one here as Saint-Martin? This village has only about 400 residents, and it's lost many of the staples of village life. Decades ago, it had things you might expect in a village, including 2 butchers, a market, even a traveling clothing seller named the Carrier Pigeon would stop by every once in a while. But no longer. There's no bakery, there's no traditional grocery store, but local farmers do sell produce from time to time. And Saint-Martin itself isn't the hub it surely used to be. A pamphlet with some local history says big changes to Saint-Martin's operations began in the 1960s. At that time, falling parishioner numbers limited the number of priests regularly coming to the area and thus reduced the number of church services, which thus reduced the number of Catholics, which reduced the number of services, etc., etc. Even though the Catholic faith in France has changed a lot over time, and my most recent trip to France has kind of proved that there is a curiosity still among people. What happened? Why did Catholicism fall off so abruptly? As we learned in our episode about the nuns of Compiègne, it's a complicated history, often related to the revolution, but even before. The relationship of the church and monarchy, the rise of laïcité within France, the changing of just how France operates through multiple world wars. The question is, what role does the church play when there's such devastation, really? It's hard. It's a hard question to answer. But to pay respect in a cemetery like this, it just seems natural. That's what should be done, at least to me, an outsider. And there are people who have taken care of Saint-Martin. There were efforts to raise money for this place and replace some of the headstones and really dress it up a bit. But it doesn't change the larger trend against the church, against maintenance of places like this as a church, as opposed to part of the patrimoine, the tradition, the collective heritage of France. And that's something that the faithful have to wrestle with, and people who are not particularly religious in France also have to wrestle with. Well, the Catholic Church played a strong part of French history and is still afforded a special status in modern France. The country has turned decidedly secular. The French subscribe to a kind of hyper-secularism as a social religion. This is called laïcité. This is an extreme separation of church and state. And interesting enough, a desire to preserve civic history may have actually helped save Saint-Martin. You can see some gravestones and sites have been renovated, and recently. I'm not exactly sure if the family renovated this particular one or it was part of a greater renovation and restoration project that people raised money for here in the Church of Saint-Martin.
Residents and officials worked to secure about 350,000 euros to repair the church roof, doors, and other improvements in the name of preserving heritage. This is opposed to the idea of preserving a house of God because, it's a house of God.
Something else to think about when we think about churches in France is you still have the bells of the churches that ring every day. It's a present reminder that the churches are here and the faithful can visit them, but they just don't. And sometimes it's difficult even to get inside. Like this one is locked and a priest only comes twice a year.
Some naysayers may not much care about this. It's just a building, one might say. Or why should religious groups spend money on property when they can spend that money to help feed the poor? The physical church building can serve as a hub for feeding the poor and act as a space for people to contemplate themselves and God. It also serves as a cultural marker and a historical marker within a community. In May 2025, Pope Leo said France's Christian heritage still profoundly permeates French culture and remains alive in many hearts. He said this on the 100th anniversary of the canonization of 3 French saints, including the powerhouses of Sainte Thérèse of Lisieux and Saint Jean Vianney. This came on the heels of a report that France's Catholic Church planned to welcome more than 10,300 adult catechumens at Easter. That marks a 45% increase from 2024 figures. This is incredible news anywhere, but especially in modern France.
Put simply, I think it's a good thing to maintain cemeteries and maintain churches. Yes, for the religious part of it, and I happen to be Catholic, so it's a holy place to me, but also just as part of the fabric which holds a community together. I think there are benefits to allowing children, to allowing future generations to walk through, to think about the people who lived here, to think about the people who prayed here, and really respect that. Thanks for watching this episode of Faithful. And if you're so inclined, please subscribe or share with anyone you might feel would enjoy it. And also, please have a great day.